O'Loughlin, please.
Thank you, and Minister, the question that I want to put to you is in relation to apprenticeships. And I think it's true to say that Ireland is lagging far behind many other EU countries in relation to the scale and diversity of apprenticeships that are currently being offered here. Traditionally, we've had an emphasis on the craft apprenticeships. Now, that has changed recently, but the issue that concerns me most is that only 2% of the total apprentice population are female, which is the most unequal gender statistic in the state. So I want to ask what practical action has taken place since November, since Fianna Fáil raised this in a private member's bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Count Corla, and thank you for your very important question, Deputy. A number of reports have highlighted the number of women employed in craft apprenticeships is low, reflecting traditional low levels of female employment in the craft sector. While Solace offers a bursary to craft employers to encourage them to employ female apprentices, the uptake by women is still very low. However, in recent years, there has been an increase in the number of women participating in apprenticeships overall, mainly because of the expansion of apprenticeships into new areas. Many of these programmes, if you like, are in occupations that have greater gender balance in the workplace, such as financial services and others. And at the end of 2018, I can say that there are now 341 female apprenticeships registered, more than double the 2017 figure of 151. By the way, I accept that that number is still low in relative terms to the uptake of apprenticeships in general. While this is welcome, it is also important to address issues influencing, if you like, the low level of recruitment of women in the craft sectors. And Solace has completed a review on the pathways to participation in apprenticeships for underrepresented groups, including women. Areas highlighted for action include setting targets for female participation, considering extending the craft employers' bursary to other apprenticeships which have less than 20% female participation, and a specific focus on female participation as part of the Generation Apprenticeship national, if you like, promotional campaign. Women now feature prominently in all aspects of the national promotional campaign, where there is a specific focus on encouraging women and girls to consider apprenticeships as a means of launching and developing their careers. The forthcoming review of career guidance will also focus on encouraging the consideration of apprenticeships option by all levels of students. We launched 17 apprenticeships last year. You have to take things in perspective, the size of our country, where we came from. The population compared to the larger countries. We now have 40 apprenticeships, and apprenticeships have considerably increased over the last number of years. And we do have what we launched a programme for apprenticeships, a national programme for apprenticeships, which was launched about 2 years ago, and that has been very successful in advertising apprenticeships in all aspects of the workplace. So I do agree that the level of women participation is low. But there is a doubling of apprenticeships for women this year from last year, since we started to take into consideration as to how we deal with it. The action plan to expand apprenticeships and trainees in Ireland 2016 and 2020. We are on track, considering, as I say, the size of our economy. And just very briefly,
on track with the time now, Minister. It's up.
Okay, I'll come back to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cian Corla, and it's good to see that there is some movement on it, but when we compare the statistics to our nearest neighbour in England, in 2016-2017, 54% of all apprenticeships were taken up by women there, which is very sizable, and the number of women starting apprenticeships in England has been higher than men for every year since 2010-2011, so I think that we can earn a lot there. I I think in general we need to do more in terms of promoting apprenticeships, and we saw the survey unveiled recently in relation to the number of young people that are leaving third level before the end of first year. And certainly I think that with the increased training and emphasis on career guidance in terms of the pathway through apprenticeships, that should absolutely really help. We did an engagement on this in the Education and Skills Committee, and Nessa White, the CEO of the ETBI, spoke about a video that they made in relation to a woman who started an apprenticeship as a welder, and that this brought a lot of interest to the area. So I think we need to do more to seek out female role models in relation to this. But I think we need to put more supports in place without a shadow of a doubt. And I do know that when we brought this PMB before the House in November, that the ministers were very supportive in relation to it. And I think that Minister Mitchell O'Connor used the opportunity to promote the grant for female apprenticeships. But I just want to know what practical additional measures are going to be put in place, both in terms of incentivising employers and incentivising women to take up these positions. Thank you.
Minister.
Women are strongly represented in the financial sector, where, believe it or not, 45% of the participants are female, and 60% in accounting, technical, and 45% in auctioneering and property services. One of the incentives that we did do was to promote a bursary, and I'm not too sure if you're aware of that, but what that done was it incentivised employers to employ women. And Solace, for instance, offers a bursary, I think it's €2,666, to eligible employers to encourage them to employ female apprentices in any one of the craft apprenticeships. And it applies to the relevant education and training board at a rate of €95 a week. I have asked them to consider increasing the bursary, which I think we will do. I should also say that, as set out in the Action Plan for Apprenticeships and Traineeship in Ireland, Solace has completed a review of the pathways to participation in apprenticeships, and the purpose of that review was to ensure that our national apprenticeship system was more reflective of the range of diversity in our population. And can I just say this will take some time, but if you go back to last year and the year before that, where we had very few women, we have doubled the amount of women since we took the incentive and the initiatives to get more women into apprenticeships. And I am confident that in the next year that will double again. So I think we are on a step forward.
All right. Deputy O'Loughlin.
Thank you, Minister. I accept what you're saying, but I still think I am aware of the bursary, and I did mention that that was in place. But I think that, and I accept that it has doubled, so we're now at 4%. Still very low, considering that 96% are men. But I think that while we see that progress, much more has to be done. And while the bursary is in place, that far more must be done for women who wish to do apprenticeships. Adequate supports must be facilitated through organisations like Solace, like ETBI and FIT as well, who we also had an engagement with recently. So I think all of the state training agencies, in order to provide relevant apprenticeship groups to those groups that are underrepresented, because people with disabilities are also underrepresented. Only 1.5% of those in apprenticeships have a disability, and I think it's important that we look at those as an underrepresented group, and possibly this is where we need to work with employers in terms of putting incentives in place to make sure that we have genuine equity and equality across the board.
Done is you have incorporated the National Census question on disability into apprenticeship registration as a means of gathering more robust data on participation. And my department have now set annual targets for diverse participation in apprenticeships, which includes disability and women. And the aim is to have 600 female apprenticeships by 2019, as I said, and 1,000 by 2020 under the action plan. And this is a slow process coming from where we were, and a very few women that were in apprenticeships. And could I just also say that it's important to note that when we do a call out for apprenticeships, the call out is done across all diversities and all groups, and we understand and we have been taken into consideration the low uptake from females and disability groups in the apprenticeship market, if you like. But it is happening, it is increasing. Solace and my department and others, with Enterprise Ireland, IDA and all agencies, are aware that we need to get more women into the workforce, and we particularly need to get more women into apprenticeships. And I am convinced, as I've said to you, my aim and my department is to bring double again. So if we reach our quota of 600 for next year, we will have doubled 2 years in a row of female apprenticeships, and I think that's a really good step forward.